Welcome back now. Let us cross to our TNA. It is being held in Boksburg this morning. The Gauteng, with the Department of Human Settlements, Deputy Minister of Human Settlements, Zokota Fredericks. Unfortunately, the Minister could not make it. We just found it out this morning. And Tabane Zulu, who is the Director General. And the theme is building partnerships for development of sustainable human settlements. Peter, a very, very good morning to you.
A very good morning to you, Leanne, and good morning to everybody at home, wherever you may be watching across the country and also the territories beyond our borders. Welcome to this, the latest in the series of New Age briefings brought to you by the SABC, and today kindly sponsored by Eskom. And the conversation that we're having today is all about human settlements, housing, shelter. I guess this is one of the most important needs that human beings have needed since the beginning of time. And in fact, if we go back to the Freedom Charter, it's one of the pillars of the Freedom Charter is that of providing housing for all of our people. So this conversation, very important to all of us in South Africa in one form or another, particularly as we get into this winter cycle. We have to be mindful for those people that perhaps don't have shelter right now, and that the weather is starting to turn. So a lot of things that we can discuss. I know that you at home would like to be part of this conversation as well. Hashtag TNA BizBrief at Morning Live SABC is where you can raise your questions about human settlements, and there are a number of issues, I guess, but we're going to start by having a conversation with the Deputy Minister and the Director General at the department, just to lay the foundation, I guess, of what the department is trying to do, how they're dealing with the many challenges that the human settlements in South Africa is facing, and then we'll start to get your take and your concerns and perhaps even your suggestions and solutions so that we can move forward and make sure that everybody has access to affordable, decent housing in the country. So let me introduce then to you our guests for today that are going to be helping us with this conversation. I'm going to start on my right here, the Honourable Minister, Deputy Minister for Human Settlements, Honourable Zokota Fredericks. Thank you very much for joining us, and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Peter.
And next to you, we have the Director General at the Department of Human Settlements, Mr. Tabane Zulu. Thank you very much for joining us, and welcome to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Peter.
All right, so let me start with you, Deputy Minister. On the 7th of May, the Minister, Lindiwe Sisulu, delivered the budget vote speech, and a few initiatives came through there, big themes. And I'm just wondering, perhaps as a starting point, if you could give us a sense of what the speech was trying to communicate to the people of South Africa.
Thank you, Peter. Ladies and gentlemen, viewers at home, I start by saying that it's no coincidence that we are holding this breakfast meeting here at Bedwood Hotel at the OR Tambo Hall. As we all know that OR Tambo is one of those icons of South Africa who have galvanized the international community against apartheid and has brought us where we are. And if we look in terms of the budget vote itself, the theme of the budget vote itself is about building a nation through partnerships. It meant that we are saying building of houses cannot be the responsibility of government alone. We need the private sector, we need all stakeholders, we need civil society. And our target is to do 1.5 million housing opportunities. And we are saying 750,000 would be upgrading of informal settlements. 563,000 would be building the individual subsidy housing. 110,000 will be gap housing in terms of the rental stock. 35,000 will be affordable rental built by the private sector. And 10,000 of that will be for mine workers. But we are saying at the end of the day, it is critical that we move in terms of revitalizing the mining towns. Already 87 projects are in the pipeline in the mining towns, 22 projects of upgrading informal settlement are taking place in the mining towns. The other area is the area of military veterans. We've agreed that we'll build housing for military veterans. Our target is to build about 5,600 houses for military veterans. The other aspect of our the budget speech was speaking to the issue of youth empowerment. We had a youth summit last year, and in that we have launched what is called a youth brigade. Our approach is to ensure that as we have mega projects across the country, 60% of the housing opportunities should be set aside for youth empowerment. Also, we're saying within the USDG, portion of that money would be for cleaning of cities. And in that, cities must create job opportunities for youth to clean our cities and our townships. But we are also saying the issue at hand is the issue of backyard dwellers, because the first sector of urban generation, people who've been in these cities long time ago, they are saying that we're prioritizing new people who are coming to the city at their expense. So Minister says it's important that we prioritize also the backyard dwellers. So that is that.
All right, thank you very much indeed. And I think you've touched on a number of points that we're going to be able to unpack during the course of this conversation. So DG, if Deputy Minister is the policy maker, you are the guy at operations making it all happen. And the question I keep on asking is, you know, we have this backlog, we have these huge challenges, and we've got these grand plans. The question is, are they doable? What's going to be different going forward now to overcome some of these challenges?
Thank you very much, Peter. That's a very relevant question. Once policy has been designed and the budget has been approved, what becomes critical is the implementation strategy. As a department at this point in time, we're sitting with about 2.3 million of housings that needs to be built in the next 5 years or so. And that's going to depend on what effective strategies do we put in place to do that. Our Honorable Deputy Minister has made reference to the fact that we want to focus mainly on mega projects. So we want to be more massive in our approach. So we're adopting a very radical approach of how to effectively deal with our backlog. We have learned some lessons in the last 20 years of our existence and our democracy in this sector, and we are changing the gear in terms of how we approach these challenges. The theme of the budget vote is more on partnerships. One of the key realizations is that we cannot do this alone as the government. We need partners from different sectors, the private sector, the banking sector, the communities themselves, and the leadership at large, to make sure that we deal with this challenge. The question is it doable or not? Indeed, it's doable. We have started with the process of identifying key mega projects throughout the country in all 9 provinces, and we'll be dealing with this challenge head on. We are very much mindful of the fact that it's not going to be easy, but we believe that through the partnerships that we are putting in place, we have signed quite a number of social contracts with different sectors, with different professional bodies, with different construction companies, to make sure that we begin to take this matter quite seriously. And in particular in the area of mining towns, where we have already entered into some agreements with private companies who are willing to donate funds and donate land for this purpose to be realized. So the answer, yes, indeed, is very much doable, and we are very convinced that during this term of political office, we will be able to deliver 1.5 housing opportunities to the needy people.
What is a housing opportunity?
Thank you very much. That's a question that is normally well asked. We have different product offerings from the human settlements perspective, and we also understand that there are different housing needs for different people, for different segments in our society. So the housing opportunity relates to those categories. Some of our communities are in need of rental stock, and some are in need of social housing, some are in need of PNG houses, and some are in need of proper houses, like getting loans from private sector to have a house. So there are different product offerings that we do. So that defines our housing opportunities. We also provide saving sites for people to build for themselves. We also have a PHP program where communities, they come together and put different cooperatives to build houses for themselves. So these are all different housing opportunities that we make reference to when we try to define the concept of housing opportunity.
Deputy Minister, I'm just wondering now, because you have to speak to the voters and the constituencies out there, and I'm just wondering if people are running out of patience in terms of time. When I hear the backlog amount, I mean, that's a huge number. And more we see demonstrations, people being violent because they feel frustrated. They've been on queues and lists for years and years and years. So my question to you is there a time, and when will we be able to say the job is done?
It's a difficult question because you must remember, rapid urbanization is a global phenomenon. And people are moving to cities because of greener pastures. They want jobs so that they can take their children to school. So one of the things that we are saying in human settlements is that we must work with our citizens. There must be active partners in the building of houses, which means even if you are planning to have a project, people must be part of that project so that they understand exactly what are the challenges around the delivery of housing, so that if a project is being done, they must know who is going to be the beneficiaries in that particular project. And if that is the case, they're active participants, there won't be a social distance between us and our people. They would understand exactly that that particular project is meant for such and such people, and that the criteria for projects should be elderly people, people with disabilities, and child-headed as household. And if we do that, we ensure that at the end of the day, the other people who follow are the first people on the list. And if there's certainty that there is a plan about housing in a particular area, we won't see the protests. The protests are there particularly because people are not knowing exactly what is taking place around the development of housing. But if they are part of it, we'll minimize the protests.
The protests that we saw in Soweto recently, they were saying that there were people that were going to receive houses that don't even live in the area. How are we making sure that the people that are designated are the ones that are going to get these opportunities?
That is why we are working on our database. We must have a credible database, so that at the end of the day, the municipalities that are doing their allocation, they are certain that the houses that are built for individuals who deserve the housing. You must remember that the government is building houses for the poorest of the poor. So which means you must in the particular category, you must earn below 3,500 as a household. And those people will have access to housing. And if you are earning above that, there are other products, as the DG has mentioned. But at the same time, it's important that the community leaders are able to communicate correct messages to the people. That kind of communication will definitely assist us going forward.
But DG, we know that there are problems. There are people jumping the queue, as it were. And there's people that are saying, we've been on this list for 10, 11 years. How is this going to be addressed? We're talking about databases, but we're still seeing people jumping queues, and they're saying that foreigners even are jumping in and getting housing ahead of locals.
That's quite correct. There is a challenge in terms of our systems on the ground. And one of the key areas that you are currently focusing on, working with our partners, particularly at local government level, because part of the implementation arrangement for beneficiaries is located at a local government level. And our register system, we're trying to perfect it to make sure that our system remains credible. One of the things we're doing as part of our review is what lessons have we learned in the last 10 or 15 years or so in that particular specific area. But it also reflects a very fundamental challenge that a house is a very basic need for every human being. And you would expect, therefore, that people will try whatever they could to make sure that they access housing. So our focus should be in both ways, in ensuring that we deliver for the needy people, because that will also deal with that particular challenge, that there is no overtaking of anybody who's already in the list, but also is to make sure that our prioritization in the delivery of our houses is also taken cognizance of, in the sense that there are people who are most in most need for houses more than others. For example, we've got elderly people, we've got disabled people, and so forth. So the prioritization as well becomes very critical. And what we are trying to do in our system is to perfect our categorization, to make it a point that is real. For example, if you've been in a queue for almost 10 years and a disabled elderly person needs a house, it makes legitimate moral sense to provide that house to that particular elderly person, and then the list becomes longer and longer and so forth. But it's an important issue that our system is busy with at the moment, and I think at a local government level, our colleagues are working on this matter quite very effectively. There is great improvement as we speak in terms of ensuring that our system of registering our beneficiaries is perfected on an annual basis.
One of the conversations that I had with Minister not so long ago actually was the issues around the quality of some of the housing that gets built. Some of our builders are not doing the job. In fact, it got so serious that Advocate Tulima Donsela was even called in to some areas just to have we addressed that? Are we making sure now that we've not got substandard buildings being built for our people?
We have a policy that is termed breaking new ground policy, where we are emphasizing the issue of moving away from quantity in terms of chasing numbers to quality. We emphasize that the houses that are built for people should be quality houses. Because people are poor, it doesn't necessarily mean they don't have dignity. It is important to restore dignity of our people. That is why at this point in time, we are having a white paper on human settlements where the issue of quality of housing is being put in place, because you cannot build human settlements if you are still building shoddy houses. It doesn't go hand in hand. So we have also NHBRC, which is our quality housing institutions, which make sure that the houses are monitored at a slab level, at all levels of building of the house, the wall up to the roof, ensuring that our quality houses. In fact, the minister is even saying that shoddy houses should be given back to the contractors to rebuild them, so that we're moving away from using the budget of the department to rebuild houses that were built shoddily by contractors. That NHBLT takes responsibility of bringing the contractors who are building shoddy houses to book. So we are doing away with that, and we are saying that contractors that have built shoddy houses, we are going to blacklist them.
All right, okay. We're going to take a quick pause now, a quick break, and when we come back, we'll start unpacking some of these issues. I'm interested in particularly issues around getting rid of these hostels, what's going to come in its place, and the city planning. We've got informal settlements that sort of sprung up. How do we incorporate them, and what will our cities look like going forward? One big question that was raised in Europe was they run out of space, so they started building upwards as opposed to outwards. Are we going to start to see high-rises in terms of accommodation? All of those questions are coming up after this break, and we'll also look forward to getting your questions and your tweets as well. Hashtag TNA BizBrief at Morning Live SABC, and we'll also be getting the questions from our audience here right after this, so don't go away.